Senator Sanders was very aggressive on the Goldman Sachs and the Wall Street transcript, more so than in the past. Do you think that she's dodging, and do you think that she will release the transcript?
Well, I think she should. I think just as a matter of politics, that's a smart decision. When you have something like these transcripts hanging over your head, they're not going to go away, And so I think she'd be smart to kind of deal with this. All they got to do is push a button and put these things out. And, if there's something in there that's really going to hurt her, better get it out now than later, frankly.
Do you think her argument that, I'll do it when Republicans release theirs holds any water?
Well, no, I don't. I think that's specious. Listen, this isn't about, I think we can all stipulate the Republicans are totally in the tank with the special interests. We would agree with Hillary on that. The question is, these speeches, for which she was paid millions of dollars, have become a real issue. I think Democratic primary voters deserve to know, whether or not their candidate for president is someone who is in any way beholden to the interests of Wall Street. She and Bernie have huge differences, policy differences, when it comes to how to deal with the power of Wall Street, and she would be best served by being much more transparent on that issue.
Do you think she's been playing a little politics? Senator Sanders mentioned ghettos, and I saw in my email inbox, Trayvon Martin's mother, other Clinton surrogates going out attacking him for that.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate, when we move into that territory. Bernie Sanders has a lifelong commitment to civil rights and justice, and he has a very aggressive platform on trying to deal with those issues in his presidential campaign. These debates, when you're speaking live, like that, you may express something in a way that people can twist and distort. I think when you politicize these things like that, and particularly when you bring in people, who have suffered so much to do that work for you, it's just, I think it's a poor choice.
Talk to me about Ohio, some of the other middle of the country. You have a lot of pundits saying these are more favorable to Senator Sanders.
Yeah.
What's the specific path that you think he could catch up in the pledge delegates?
Yeah, I think the path is that as we move through the process and start to move to the end of this month, for example, when we get to states like beginning in Arizona, where I think we have a real good shot of winning. We've had huge events out there in Phoenix and Tucson. Moving on to Washington State, which is a big state, an important state, and I think really the whole West Coast ultimately is a place we can win. Then coming into a battleground like Wisconsin, which I think is going to be as pivotal as Michigan was, in this process, a standalone event, a very important general election battleground state. And then we'll come into April and have big states like New York and Pennsylvania, where I think we can compete and win. That's her home state, but, he grew up there, and, the people in northern part of New York, or parts of northern New York, know him well from Burlington and, his service in Vermont. And I think if we can pull off some big upsets along the way, if we can get people, to in state after state support his candidacy, I think there'll be enormous pressure, on Hillary Clinton if she doesn't win consistently. So we see a very good path forward. As good as the front part of the nominating process was for Hillary Clinton, that's how we think the back end of the nominating process is for Bernie Sanders.
She and her allies have criticized him that the numbers don't add up.
Sure.
These policies are great, in the ideal world, but there's not enough money if Wall Street speculation, things like that. How would, if Senator Sanders taxed Wall Street speculation, wouldn't that cause them to find other dangerous behaviors to, make up the difference of what they're losing?
If they have a president like Bernie Sanders, they're not going to be able to find those other places to do abusive things that once almost destroyed our economy. No, I think he'll be very tough on them. And listen, the reason he can be tough on them is not that he's smarter or, a better person. It's that he doesn't take money from them. Okay, so when you're independent of that influence, you can, take on the problem in a completely different, fundamentally different way. So I think that's what it's all about. And, that independence is something people, I think, are relating to. They understand the problem with special interest money in politics. And then they also, and I think Democratic primary voters increasingly are going to take a look at the fact that, particularly if Trump is the nominee, that Trump is going to be running on that issue of special interest money. He says he's, funding himself, and, I think whether or not we want billionaires buying the White House is a separate question. But nevertheless, he's not going to be dependent on those special interests to fund his campaign. And I think, as a result, against Hillary, he's kind of a big advantage. Against Bernie, that advantage just does not exist.
And watching TV news last night, it would be shocking that Bernie Sanders upset him in Michigan because they were talking about Donald Trump so much. What do you got to do to break through with the media? Because even an upset, it led, but then they moved on.
Well, I think, one thing we're not going to do is sort of whine about it, okay? I'll tell you that. We think our message is getting out to people. We've had to deliver it through less traditional means, perhaps than most campaigns do. But we think as this story builds, for us, we're still at the front end of this process. We understood what we had to do in Iowa to get everybody's attention. I think we did it. We understood what we had to do in New Hampshire to make sure people understood the nature of his candidacy. I think we achieved it. We tried to do a lot in those first few states, and when we didn't win Nevada, we decided, okay, this is going to be a long process. So what we've got to do to get the attention of the media is to win. We're going to have to win delegates, we're going to have to win states. And, we recognize that, we understand it, and we think if we can, particularly if Trump is successful on the Republican side and that process ends more quickly, I think if it does, all the attention is going to shift to our side, and we'll have the advantage as Barack Obama did in 2008 when he and Hillary had a long challenge that went all the way through. We'll get the attention in March, April, May, June, July, and I think that's plenty of time for us to get information out about him and get his message out.
Last question: do you think this is a DNC conspiracy to make us sweat out here?
Well, we blame the DNC for a lot of things, but we're not going to blame them for that. Okay.
Thanks.